And welcome to the Steelers Depot Q&A live stream here on this Monday, September 5th. Just a couple days until the start of the regular season with a Thursday night opener, and then followed by the Sunday Steelers season opener against the Bengals, 1 o'clock at Cincinnati. So appreciate you guys being here. Appreciate all the support on the channel over the last week or so. A lot going on, so much to talk about. Of course, we'll start here with our weekly or bi-weekly quick audio test with our co-host here and good friend Dave Bryan. Dave, how you doing? Give me a quick audio test if you could.
Test, check. Do I sound like a robot tonight?
Hopefully not. We've been good lately, knock on wood. Audio's been solid. So, Chad, if you could just let me know if everything sounds okay, if I sound okay, if Dave sounds okay, then we'll get straight to your questions and get the live stream officially going. So just let us know.
Alex, what do you reckon the people are going to want to talk? Probably nothing going on today. They're probably not going to have much to want to talk about tonight. What do you think?
Nothing quarterback related, I'm sure. It's all strictly non-quarterback related matters. So let me the chat doesn't always refresh, but there we go. Okay, Brenton and Tim and Rick says that we sound good. So appreciate that. If there are any issues, just let us know and we'll adjust along the way. As always, Dave and I are here till 8 p.m. The chat may be larger than usual, given the growth of the channel and the interest and intrigue in the Steelers' upcoming season. So if you want to move to the front of the line, be guaranteed to have your question asked and answered by Dave and myself. You can send us a super chat, no obligation to do so, but that is a good way to get your question answered immediately. We'll start here with Mutated Genome, who sent this in before the live stream began, saying, Alex, you say Pickett is ready to start, but is he more ready than Trubisky? Don't you want to play the guys who give the team the best chance to win games? Do you want to start a rookie quarterback behind this offensive line? You know, I get the point there, MG. Is Trubisky more ready? Is Pickett more ready? How do you define that? That's hard for me to do. The O-line comment, I get that, but I don't focus on those things. It's not relevant to a man. Is Pickett ready to start? The O-line's going to probably still be in rough shape come week 5 or week 9 or whenever Pickett may see action. So I don't really buy into that too much. I try to really not overcomplicate things and just say, is Pickett ready to start? To me, that he is. Of course, now, Dave, the question is, he's not going to start. We know Trubisky will be the starter, at least 99.9% of the chance of that. Tomlin not officially confirming, but all the tea leaves indicate that. Now the question is, will Pickett even dress this Sunday, or will Mason Rudolph be the number 2?
Yeah, look, if you look at the depth chart and you take it, the way it's written out there, and obviously Mike Tomlin, that'll be one of the several questions that he's asked on Tuesday during his weekly press conference is, what's the deal with the number 2 situation? And I think you have to take the depth chart at face value for what it says there. And it says that Mason Rudolph is the second quarterback and that Kenny Pickett's the third. You and I just had a discussion about that not 24 hours ago when we recorded the Monday edition of the Terrible Podcast, and I told you I promised you I wouldn't drop my T if that wound up being the case, and it was the case. And with this depth chart being released, I don't know why Tomlin did it today, other than to maybe to lessen the blow, maybe a little bit before the press conference or whatnot, because normally those things they just let come out naturally in the weekly media release pregame, and that usually comes out an hour and a half or 2 hours before the Mike Tomlin press conference. So, I guess he just wanted to put it out there now. But long story short, I expect Kenny Pickett now to be inactive on Sunday against the Bengals, and for Mason Rudolph to dress as the number 2 quarterback behind starter Mitch Trubisky.
I know there's a lot of questions about that, so I don't want to rant too long about it, but I'm 50-50 on who the number 2 will be. I know that Rudolph is listed as the number 2, but it is just a depth chart, and this team's not beholden to that, for any reason. And so I'd love to know who's been getting second-team reps in practice since camp broke. I mean, the indications had been it's Pickett. If it is Rudolph, it's because he's the experienced guy and has come off the bench before, and there's trust and there's value in that. And so that would be the reason. To me, it would be the wrong reason overall, but hopefully Tomlin gives some sort of clarification. Do you think Tomlin will give that clarification tomorrow?
I think he'll be asked about it,
Oh yeah, I
obviously.
will. But will
You
he? Will
know,
he answer? Will he give a Tomlin answer of
uh,
leaving lights on and all that?
I mean, I think he'll answer it. He'll just, something to the effect that he thinks that Mason is deserving of the job and would be his choice for the next. I don't know how he'd go about. He's not going to give a one of those 10-minute Bill Belichick dissertations about long snappers.
Right. Will he answer directly though and say who the number 2 quarterback is?
I would think so. Yes, I would venture a guess that he will.
I'd like to think so. If you have guys a backup, then call him the backup. What are you afraid of? We're gonna find out on Sunday, and it's not that much. It's not a competitive advantage or disadvantage to really know who the backup quarterback is. I mean, maybe a small one, but
Here's the thing. Outside of it being just an error, which is, I mean, we in this digital age, anything's possible, right? When you have humans involved with something like that, what is there to gain in not, in not putting the proper order in there?
I just don't think they spend a lot of time thinking about it. Tomlin's always said he makes the depth chart because the NFL mandates it, not because they really are, agonizing over who is being slotted where. There were very few changes, if any, maybe one with Jalen Warren on the depth chart in terms of guys that got moved around. So I think that's the thing that gives me pause is I know that Tomlin has always said, and it's true, to read basically nothing into the order of the depth chart.
Okay.
We will see. I don't know. I mean, I know you're saying that you think you're pretty confident Mason will be the number 2. He may very well be. And I know you talked about that during the summer, and it may come to fruition. I just take this with a grain of salt, though, because I've always taken these depth charts with grains of salt.
Look, and my main point, and this goes all the way back to when was it, June, July, whenever it was, one of the terrible takes, and also on the heels of one of the, I think it was a bold prediction ESPN article that followed not too long after, stating that Kenny Pickett would be the number 3, and in that article as well too, I said that it's not that far off of a base of a prediction there, and in so many words in my terrible take. Way back when, I wanted people to know that. Now, this was obviously, I think, before training camp started, but the plausibility, as long as Rudolph is and remains on this roster throughout this process up until now, I think the plausibility factor has been there, especially when you look, not that you're using 2004 as this is the way you do things, because obviously times change. And, we talked yesterday on the podcast about, look, Pickett coming out now is a lot more mature and a lot more experienced quarterback than been in 2004. And Kevin Colbert, in so many words, has said several times over the years, look, the original plan for Ben was for him to be the number 3 quarterback during his rookie season and hopefully not play. Well, Charlie Batch knee injury during the summer obviously changed that, and Ben got bumped up to number 2. And then you get into the second week of the season, Tommy Maddox goes down with the elbow, and boom, the rest is history there. So, assuming it's not a clerical error on that depth chart that was released today, then I'm taking it at face value.
All right, fair enough. But hopefully Tomlin clarifies a bit tomorrow. Tim M says he can't hear anything. I believe that's just you, Tim. I'm not getting any other indication that there's audio issues. So just make sure your sound is all good there, Tim. Tim Chase with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Tim. Good to hear from you. Says, with the line we have, you might want to address 3, might need a 4th, referring to the quarterback situation there. Yeah, certainly offensive line as uncertain as any position on this team. And, getting 5 starters is tough to do for any team. Pittsburgh, doesn't really have those quality proven 5 starters and the depth behind them. Oh boy, Dave. If someone gets hurt, someone goes down, the options look bleak.
Yeah, look, I think we all should take a moment here, and everyone in the chat, we should all join virtual hands here and pray that this offensive line makes drastic improvements here over the first quarter of this season, and hope that none of these starting 5, as bad as this unit might collectively be at this point, I don't want to see it. Should one of these five go down,
Hmm.
that the drop off is even, in my opinion, worse when it goes from there. And you can look at the depth chart too, and you can come away with it with saying, well, it looks like Kendrick Green's the only listed backup guard there. Man, if they, and you wrote about this morning, and I know people are tired of probably at this point of banging on Kendrick Green,
Hmm.
but I thought you were spot on with your post this morning, and something somebody needs to be questioned, I think, heavily if Kendrick Green dresses as the primary backup guard in this game, because or even if he dresses to be the primary backup left guard, then that has to make, and assuming the inactive then would be, I guess, Jesse Davis at that point, if they were to go that way, unless they're going to dress all nine of them.
Right.
But I wouldn't think they would do that. But if you're going into a game thinking, well, Kendrick, look, you're just going to be the backup left guard here, then that, and if you didn't dress Jesse Davis, then you're basically saying that J.C. Hassenauer is going to be your backup right guard,
Hmm.
and that's not good either. There, so it will be interesting to see come to the end, and that you would think. Based on what we've seen so far, that Kendrick Green would be inactive along with Kenny Pickett on Sunday.
With Green, that is my expectation. You're right. I try not to pile on with things about Kendrick Green and Devin Bush, a lot of things that have already been generally said, but I just kind of felt the urge to write about that with Kendrick Green, to just look at the pick in general. I don't blame this all on Kendrick Green. Pittsburgh completely misevaluated him. I do want to make one point because I saw some comments about my title of the Steelers must admit their mistake on Kendrick Green. I'm not asking Mike Tomlin or Omar Khan, who didn't even draft Kendrick Green, to publicly come out and hang their heads and say we're sorry. I'm not expecting that. That's a silly thing. I didn't think I'd even had to clarify that point. When I say must admit their mistake, I mean release him, waive him, move on from him, get him off the roster is what I mean whenever I say admit their mistake. That's essentially what a release would do.
Oh, so you weren't going Bleacher Report or something like that, right?
I'm not even sure why people it thought I was insinuating they have to hold a public press conference about it and be grilled about it.
Right.
No, that'd be ludicrous. What team would ever do that themselves, or what expectation would there ever be of a team to do that? So I just want to clarify that because apparently I have to.
And
Uh,
look, we don't have an article every other week or every month that says Steelers must do, that.
right.
It's just a kind of a form of expression that you were trying to express there.
Right. It's not where I'm going to bang that gavel every single week and say, why aren't they doing it? But just to make the forceful point there. Anyway, F War 83 says, hello, hello, hello. Thank you for being here again. John Pennington says, hello, Dave and Alex, guys. Do you think Andrew Adams could help the team on special teams and in the secondary this week? He is physical. He's a veteran guy, but probably going to be injury insurance and elevation if someone goes down in the secondary. That's probably what he is to start. He just got here, and so he's probably a little behind the eight ball in terms of catching that Steelers moving train.
Yeah, look, I think it's tomorrow. I think that they have to announce their protected practice squad players. We get back. I believe there that carries over from last year as well too. He just got to the team here, so even if you protected him on the practice squad, and I haven't looked at his special teams tape at all. I haven't had time to look at that at all, but. I would be pretty surprised if he was elevated just on his newness alone. If he was one of if indeed they do elevate two players on Saturday, I would be surprised if he's one of the two.
I would be as well. Quick question I wanted to ask the chat. I wanted to wait a couple minutes for some people to fill in, some guys who may have been coming here late. This will be our last live stream before week 1 of the regular season. Of course, I want to ask you guys, how many games will the Pittsburgh Steelers win this season? Just what will be their record overall after Week 18 is all said and done? Whether that's 6-11 to 11-6 or anything else. Just let me know, chat, what you guys are predicting. I want to get your response and kind of see what maybe some of the overall trends are. Again, how many wins do you think Pittsburgh Steelers will have this season? Let's see. Tim Chase again saying puzzled why they're the glaring tackle problem. What if 2 tackles were hurt at the same time? Yeah, I mean, in terms of a game day situation, you can only have so many guys who can play tackle. Generally, this team's going to dress 8 offensive linemen. So any team that loses two of any offensive lineman in one game is going to be in a difficult spot. But certainly, I think Pittsburgh has not done a good job handling anything really regarding their tackle situation.
And just so people understand about the whole roster rules and the way that goes now, is you can have 55 on a technically on a game day roster and dress 48 on game day, but to do that you have to have at least 8 of those 48 be offensive linemen that are dressed and active as well too. So if you want to maximize your game day roster, if you will, that's why you're going to hear the number 8 with offensive linemen thrown out quite a bit. And this team right now has 9 offensive linemen. And assuming, let's say, you do elevate 2 guys on Saturday to give you a 55-man roster, you're going to have 7 inactive players on Sunday's list. So the Sunday list will be anywhere from 5 to 7, depending on how many guys you elevate there. So that's why we talk about 9 offensive linemen on this roster, and we fully expect them to dress at least 8
right
on Sundays.
Exactly. I want to get to Brenton's question about Chris Steele. I have the article pulled up here in a moment, but I just want to read some of the responses. Pretty optimistic, I think, from the chat here, which I'm not using that as a judgment statement, just overall seeing a lot of 10 and 11 wins. Rick saying 10, Todd saying 11, John Pennington saying 11, Andrew saying 11, Joey says 11 as well. Mark,
I got to find
10.
out what them people are drinking.
Hey, be nice. These are our good friends who have come here in the chat. But no, appreciate the responses there. So I think only a couple people have them below 500. Tim Chase says 7. AB says 7 and 9. Cody says 8. So that would be, of course, 8 and 9. Fat Larry says 8, 8 and 1. So the tie, which, hey, Pittsburgh's been pretty good at tying over the years. So appreciate your responses there. Just wanted to kind of get the general feedback. Brenton asking about why Chris Steele was not retained by the Steelers. To me, I was never that intrigued by Chris Steele. Big prospect coming out of high school, goes to Florida, USC, undrafted this past year. He had some decent ball skills, but his long speed was poor. The tackling not great. Hips were a little tight. Signed with a Dolphins practice squad today. So I don't consider that much of a loss.
No, I don't. And I think you, what your terrible take today about, was it Vaughn's?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think of maybe of all the guys that were maybe the biggest surprise to not circle back. I would agree that it might be Tyler Vaughn's, but even so, how big of a loss really is that? I do kind of wonder what went into the decision maybe to keep Cody White over him.
Probably special teams, because White can do more and some versatility.
And for all we know, Vaughn's maybe did get an offer, and maybe he, holding out his options to look elsewhere. You never fully know the full story.
Sure.
When it comes to that kind of stuff there. So look, this team is usually pretty good at drafting wide receivers. They've got quite a handful on the 53-man roster this year. So we'll just silently sit and watch and see what happens with the rest of Tyler Vaughn's career as it moves forward.
Right. We'll have to wait and see on that one. And Rick McKee says, I'm not worried about the depth chart. If anything, I'm slightly concerned about the press conference tomorrow. Any clue what it might be for you? Art Rooney speaking with the media at 1 o'clock Eastern time tomorrow for a, quote, special announcement. What that is, I do not have any idea. Any guesses about what Art Rooney has to say?
No, and I've seen 6 or 7 guesses out there, and anywhere from maybe they're thinking about retiring. Franco's 32 because it being the 50th anniversary of the Immaculate Reception. I've seen. I don't have a clue, and I think you. I don't have, my back hurts so bad today. I don't have the mental capacity to even think about that today.
Yeah, I think the Franco one, it sounds like maybe some sort of jersey retirement. I know it's only been done now twice in Steelers history, with Ernie Stautner 70 and now Joe Green 75. So I know they're pretty selective, but there are so many unofficial retired jerseys, including Franco's. It feels like it's just to make a couple of them official. So it could be a variety of things. I really don't know, but we'll wait and see. Let's see. Next question comes from Tricky Ricky 48. Do you think George Pickens can overtake Claypool on the depth chart by the end of the year? It's a little hard to answer because they may, in some cases, serve different roles and purposes. Claypool saw a lot of time in the slot this year, so an 11 personnel, which will still generally be the grouping Pittsburgh will be in the most, or 3 receiver personnel. All 3 guys will largely be on the field. There'll be some sort of rotation and mixing and matching to get guys rest and things like that. But, in 2 receiver sets, I think you'll see out of the gate, you'll see Pickens and Claypool rotate some. So could Pickens eat into that snap count in 2 receiver sets as the year goes on? Certainly possible. How that looks, though, it's just a little hard to say. And I think generally you're going to have a pretty good rotation there anyway. So I don't see that as the one-to-one comparison because there will be so much mixing and matching.
Yeah, look, and more than anything, I think when Pickens is on the field, he'll either, assuming Claypool is healthy, I think he's going to be the Z, and then obviously depending on Deontay Johnson, the X, because Pickens primarily played the X at Georgia and played some Z. Talked about playing a little bit of slot or practicing at the slot during his time in Georgia, but look. Doing one thing extremely well right out of the chute, and I would think that would be the Z position in 11 personnel, 3 wide receiver sets out of the chute. And yeah, you can interchange. I mean, they're going to be in some bunch formations. Obviously, they use a lot of that on one side, so they'll work out of that. Probably do some switch routes out of that stuff. You'll see Pickens run a lot of outs, a lot of digs, a lot of curls, a lot of goes, a lot of fades. So I wouldn't get caught up too much in how much he's eating into Claypool's snap count, because as Alex said, you're going to see a lot of 11 personnel on this throughout the season once again, and because of that, you would expect that Pickens is going to be see a lot of snaps as that third wide receiver on the field.
Agreed. Got a $5 super chat from Lou Boy who says Desiree and cinnamon buns, which is a callback to last live stream. So if those new, that was a little inside joke there, which I'm not regretting because that may follow us longer than I thought it would be. Says, what's up? I like that video on Leal. Maybe the best pick from the draft. I mean, yeah, I thought Leal, again, as a pass rusher, to me, I knew he could rush the passer in college, and so that's not a big shock to me. But again, I've mentioned this before, Lou Boy. The fact that he's retained his quickness and his explosiveness and hand use and just overall pass rush ability for a guy that added about 20 pounds from last year at A&M to this year in Pittsburgh to be more of an interior defensive lineman, to retain that is the most impressive thing I've seen from him so far. So certainly still more to watch on Leal just preseason, but like the pass rush plan, the IQ, I actually compared him to, just in terms of where their game is at, Alex Highsmith, where Highsmith was a really smart, toolsy pass rusher, needed to get stronger, improve his run defense. Leal in a similar situation as Highsmith was in year number 1.
I would take it that I'm Disarray and you're Cinnamon Buns.
Oh, I think I'm Desiree. I think you were Cinnamon.
Disarray.
Yeah. Well, I think the joke was I was Desiree. He might have just spelled that incorrectly.
No, I think he misspelled it on. I think he given us new nicknames there. But okay. About Leal, make sure you clarify, Alex, that you know that Leal is not an outside linebacker. I think some people on Twitter may have taken it wrong way when you compare him to Alex Highsmith there. But as far as Leal, here's a good question for you. Who's going to be of the defensive linemen, assuming one of them's inactive? Who's it going to be? Is it going to be Leal? Is it going to be Loudermilk? That's sure. A little bit of a mystery.
I think if it's 2, and generally they only have 5 active, it'll be Leal and Loudermilk. Yeah, I mean, what I said in the tweet was, and I know maybe some people misconstrued this, was I said where Highsmith was at. I'm comparing him to where Highsmith was at, not comparing him literally to Alex Highsmith, obviously. Right. I mean, again, things I don't think I have to say that I kind of realized, I guess, later. I do need to clarify. Just, again, the comparison of Highsmith coming out, smart pass rusher, a ton of different moves, wins in a lot of different ways. Can he get stronger? Highsmith did year 2, year 3. Leal probably have a similar track there. So just in terms of their style, how they win, how they have to improve, that was the comparison there. But yeah, I think if there are 2 defensive linemen inactive, then I have a pretty strong feeling it will be, assuming Adams is healthy, Loudermilk and Leal down.
Yeah, and we have at least we know that Adams has resumed practicing, so it would, assuming he's healthy, it makes sense that he's going to get a helmet.
Right. Tim Chase says Dallas to release Collins. Any interest? What Collins is that? I know Leal Collins is now a Bengal, so Landon Collins? Is that where's Landon Collins at? Is he in the league? Is he in Dallas?
Oh, I don't even know who he's
Yeah.
talking about.
If you,
I
if you,
didn't I didn't see it.
if you could clarify, Tim, who you're referring to, then I can hopefully better answer that question there. Let's see. Go back up to the questions. 137 people here in the chat. So really appreciate the strong turnout. Be sure to like this stream. If you guys could like this video, I certainly would appreciate that a whole lot. T. Harris says, have your rookie quarterback rankings changed since your final pre-draft rankings list? No, short answer. I haven't thought about it too much. Pickett's certainly making me feel a bit more confident than where I was whenever he was drafted, but it's still preseason. It's still the summer. I'll at least get through the first full regular season. A lot of these guys aren't going to play year one. Pickett, who knows how much he'll play this year. Same with Malik Willis in Tennessee. Ritter probably plays in Atlanta some this year, but it's really too early to start adjusting those things and changing opinions. Let's see. AB with a comment, not a question, but I'll read it still just the same. Every practice rep wasted on Rudolph will only slow Pickett's development. Rudolph has no future in Pitt. What a waste. So that is the critique and the commentary there, which I can understand on a baseline level. I think let's see if I can find where I was at here. Let's see. Mark Thompson with some pushback on my Kendrick Green comment says, "You say Kendrick Green doesn't have a position, or let me start over. You say Kendrick Green doesn't have position flexibility, but he played center for all 17 games last summer. You can say he's not good, but you can't say Hassenauer has more position flexibility." My comment on that is, if Green was active on game day, where would he be the top backup at? And it would really only be maybe left guard. And he can't play right guard, and he'd be the third string center behind Hassenauer. Hassenauer would be maybe only the top backup at center, but that's the more valuable spot to be that top backup at, and he could play left guard and right guard. He's played both of those spots before. Green's never even played right guard before, so you can't even give that guy talking about Green a helmet on game day because there's so limited, chances for him to play. He'd be Kevin Dotson would have to go down for Green to come into the game, and to me that just doesn't create enough value to justify giving him a hat on game day.
Agreed.
Let's see. Does the audio still sound okay? Todd said there was maybe an issue earlier. It should be okay, unless there is a storm in the area, so maybe that's doing something. But chat, let me know if the audio still sounds okay. Let's see. Kalen Clark says, hopefully Dan Moore takes the Big Al approach and improves after a rough start. Hopefully. Certainly need that for him and for this team. Tim says, is Johnson up this week? Talking about Deontay Johnson, who was spotted not practicing on Monday. We'll hopefully get some sort of clarification tomorrow. The injury report, first one comes out tomorrow. Is that correct, Dave?
No, Wednesday.
Okay.
Yeah, the first official. Now, Mike Tomlin might update or might not update the status on some of those guys. And obviously, the video that came out from earlier today shows them basically in street clothes, if you will, or not dressed like the rest of the team. And he was trying to do a little something on the side there. The optimism side of you says, well, they just kind of holding him out right now, and he'll practice as the week goes on. At the very least, I would expect him to be listed on the injury report on Wednesday, and I think you just keep your fingers crossed that it's even as low as limited participation and hopefully full, but I would expect him to be on that injury report. It's way too, it's Monday's considered a bonus day and all like that. So, if he's not 100%, probably don't bang him around and all like that. But we'll have to see how the week progresses, and hopefully Mike Tomlin will shed a little bit of light on it on Tuesday.
Yeah, we'll see if it's at least that shoulder injury he suffered in the finale against Detroit, or if it's something new. He had a hip flexor issue during summer, during training camp. So I assume it's a shoulder, but that's not known for sure, and so I want to be careful assuming anything there, and we'll just have to see if Tomlin at least indicates what the issue is tomorrow. Keith says, as a former offensive lineman in college, it seems to me like it's more Canada offense than Myers teaching. They don't seem to know or mute or communicate the mic or whoever they need to identify. Yeah, it's hard to maybe pin down some of those things. Communication can be tough to see from our point of view about what the exact issues are. Certainly, whenever you run more motion and more shifts, that can sometimes muddy and change the offensive picture at the last second as the defense adjusts and things like that. So while the motion and things like that is designed to create some defensive chaos, the one potential downside is it can create some offensive chaos as well, trying to adjust on the fly. And for a young group that's not playing particularly well overall, that may be an issue as well. So there may be some validity to that point, Keith. It's just a bit hard to say from our 30,000 foot view.
And the pedigree too. Don't let's not forget that.
Yeah, again, I mean, I don't want to start writing things in pen for next year's draft, but you have to think, or at least by second round, you're reinvesting in that offensive line, just given the lack of investment there over the last several years.
Yeah, Jonathan Heitritter already hard at work in the summer scouting series with looking at some offensive linemen. That's probably not a bad decision on his part. This team really has to start reinvesting back in their offensive line.
Absolutely. Actually, I just looking back at the season predictions, I was trying to find who had the lowest prediction. F483 says he's had them at 5 wins for months now, and sees no reason to change it. So predicting a 5-12 year, so that seems to be the lowest. I think no one said above 12 and 5. Mark Malone said, yeah. So that's the range that we're looking at here in the chat. Let's see. Alex, you talk about Tomlin and company admitting a mistake with Kendrick Green, which I agree with, but they're going into year 5 of still trying to convince themselves that Mason is quality. Yeah, I mean, again, I would disagree with putting Rudolph as a number 2. I don't really have a whole lot more to add about that. I think he's a competent backup. I think he's fine in the role that he occupies. They don't view him as a starter. Obviously, they go out there and get Trubisky and draft Pickett the second that they have the opportunity to do so. So it's maybe a different set of circumstances, but again, I would be against the idea of making Rudolph the number 2 to start the year. David O, have you talked about Tyler Vaughn's going unsigned yet? Yes, we did a little bit earlier in the show. Let's see. Tim Chase, why not keep Haig also, Dave? Why do you think Joe Haig got let go?
Look, you and I have said already a couple of times, if you want really quite honestly, the biggest surprise on cut down day, it was Joe Haig. And no, the 2022 season for the Steelers did not hinge on Joe Haig. But the fact that we're even at this conversation right now of quote unquote, I guess, missing Joe Haig, I think tells you a lot. Joe Haig, in my opinion, at least based on the preseason tape, was this team's best option as a swing tackle. And obviously Joe Haig in a pinch can play guard as well. But, as Alex and I both kind of said in our, lead up to the 53-man roster predictions and all like that, we expected, Scott to Trent Scott to do the turnaround, and he did. But, I don't have a good answer of why they did it with, let Haig go. I mean, it's not like you're saving all that much money, and it's not like Jesse, outside of the fact that if they truly think, and this is the way I think that they think that Jesse Davis provides them a better backup at both guard spots than Joe Haig did, and they were dead set on Trent Scott being at least one of their one of their backup tackles there. So they figured, well, let's upgrade the backup guard position on the bottom end of the roster and go that way. That's the only way I can fathom their theory on the whole Joe Haig thing, is that Jesse Davis they view as a more competent backup, both left and right guard. And, oh, by the way, he can play tackle. I mean, in a sense, he has done it obviously quite a bit. I don't think that anybody of us in here want to see that happen a lot, if any, this year. And the same goes for Trent Scott on top of it. But I theorize that that's what the reason why they did what they did with Joe Haig.
I do agree with you. The question becomes why Trent Scott over Joe Haig? And that probably comes back to Pat Meyer and the connection there, but is that a good enough reason?
I mean, we saw that train coming for a while.
That's true. But you thought maybe that Scott and Haig could be on the roster, or Scott could have been signed to the practice squad, elevated, but there's clearly more faith in Scott than Joe Haig, which is,
or
again,
you could have just cut Kendrick Green and traded for Davis just the same.
Right, because Haig could play guard. He can play guard if he needed to, so you're not like losing the left guard value, quote unquote, that Green would offer there. But yeah, it's to me, I'm with you. It was the most surprising decision. Not that it was a big shocker, but it was the one that raised my eyebrow the most. Because generally, the other cuts to me were pretty expected. $5 super chat from AB, who says, appreciate the work you guys do. Thank you, AB. Here was my best O-line of who they had going in the camp. Chooks at left tackle, Daniels left guard, Cole at center, Dotson right guard, Haig at right tackle. I'd have to go back and think. I basically thought the starting five would be as it looks today, with Moore, Dotson, Cole, Daniels, and a core four. To me, I don't think too much about what I would have done or how it could have looked or should have looked. I understand you're trying to do the whole guys in their more natural spots and things like that. So I don't really have a great answer about what I thought going into camp. I just expected the starting five to be the way they're aligning for week one.
Yeah, look, a lot of people want us to maybe profess more about what we would do, but in the long run, and what we've always tried to do on the site and the podcast and all like that, is talk more about what we think the team will do, because they don't give one flying about what Alex and I think here. I can understand AB's line of thinking here with the player, the way he's got them listed and being more in their natural positions, and I definitely get that, but I didn't spend too much time thinking about that way he's got it laid out there as possibly being the end result, if that makes sense.
Right. And Quality Colas with a $2 super chat. No text there, but thank you. I know you've been around a lot of these live streams, so thank you for that, KK. We'll go back up here to Joey. Joey Jr., in fact, says, Alex, who has more yards, Juju or George Pickens? That's a good question. I'm leaning Juju to have more yards. Where do you come in, Dave?
You know what? I think, just because I came out of several fantasy drafts over the last several,
emerged
several days here. And Juju never took a snap during the preseason, I don't think.
That knee issue, right?
Yeah. I think he's still got a little bit of that knee issue going on. And I think, man, even though Tyreek Hill's no longer there and all that, there's a lot of mouths to feed over there.
Sure.
In Kansas City, right? And you kind of wonder, man, they didn't they change the roster bonus on Juju too, to kind of make it more in his favor, and which kind of makes me wonder if they're maybe a little bit concerned about that knee and all like that. And look, Pickens is going to have his share, at least I hope he does, his share of 40, 50, 60-yard gains, and also it wouldn't take him as many catches to maybe equal or even surpass Juju. And we know Pickens is going to be on the field X amount of times, just because the amount of times that we expect this team to use 11 personnel, 3 wide receiver groups. I'm going to go George Pickens over Juju in receiving yardage this season.
You know what, Dave? You've convinced me. I was thinking Juju, but that's a great point about the knee, and then Travis Kelce going to eat into that between the numbers real estate that Juju excels at. I'll go Pickens, but I think it'll be pretty close.
And look, that's not a shot at Juju or anything like that. I think, but I just think the situation that he's in, and kind of the concerns with the knee, and how I kind of envision them using him, and the opportunity. I don't think he's going to have an opportunity for a ton of explosive plays over there. I just think that Pickens and his ability to stretch the field more than a couple of times. I think. I don't think his volume of catches needs to be what Juju's is to maybe exceed that number.
And Quality Colas, by the way, did have a text after the super chat saying, I just wanted to say thank you for your work, Dave and Alex. Happy Labor Day. Same to you, and thank you again for the support of the live stream. Tim Chase back again. No more super chats. Thank you, Tim. We're closing your tab there. If Dan Moore gets hurt or benched, Chooks move over first or Scott come in. I think Scott would come in before they would shift to core four. They don't want to have to move two guys to try to fix one spot. So I think, Trent Scott is the first man up if Moore gets hurt.
Yeah, in game. Now, if it ended up long term, do you see it playing out the same way?
Maybe,
Look,
but
the old days of worrying about left right
right,
tackle. They'll move the edge rushers around to where they
sure.
need them. So you have got to put your guys at where you think they are best suited to play.
I wouldn't move a core for. He actually looks comfortable at right tackle, like the one guy that
Okay.
looks comfortable on your O line. Do you want to move him? I know that he's a quote unquote natural left tackle, but the guy has not played left tackle in a couple of years. So I mean, I think you want to keep him if you can.
Right. If he's a lot more comfortable at that position, in the old days you'd worry more about that, right? The blind
Sure.
side of the quarterback and all. But in today's NFL, man, they don't care where your weakest tackle is. They'll move their best edge rusher over to him and get at you that way. So yeah, I tend to lean to agree with you, Alex, that if they're fully on board with Chikwama Okorafor being totally comfortable at right tackle, then that's most likely probably where he would stay.
Right. Look at T.J. Watt. He's facing right tackles every week. So you better have a good right tackle that can pass protect to face and combat T.J. Watt. Dave, we just crossed the 200 chat threshold, 206
Ooh.
here right now. So that may be one of our highest numbers ever. So certainly appreciate that. You guys have been fantastic with your support, and we'll try to answer as many questions as we can over the next 20 minutes or so, starting with Andrew Donaldson, who says, do you think our offensive skill is fully drafted? Like, can we go all in on the offensive line the next draft free agency and really put ourselves in the contender category? Generally
That's
speaking,
that's a good question.
I think generally yes. I mean, Johnson's got his extension. Claypool, his deal runs through next year. Of course, Pickett's on his rookie deal. Harris will get an extension at some point, but still early into his rookie contract. Pickett, etc. You never know how a season's going to go and look and things like that. Fryermuth, again, he's under contract. Gentry will be a free agent after the year, so that's one name to watch. But generally speaking, yes, I think they've spent so much and invested so much in the skill positions with Johnson, Claypool, Pickens, Fryermuth, Harris, Pickett. It's probably time to really use that capital along the offensive line.
I would agree, and that is a good question, and it is framed properly as well too, because you do have a lot of key skill positions kind of covered, if you will, and you hope obviously Austin can get off IR and get on the moving train, and we'll see what happens with Boykin after the season because he's obviously scheduled to be a free agent and all, and he does make a good fifth or sixth wide receiver, if you will, but it still doesn't put you would think with them drafting two this year, and let's assume Claypool doesn't go anywhere because he can't, be entering the final year of his contract. Obviously, Deontay's now locked up there. You already hit on Fryermuth. You can, if need be, if you don't re-sign Gentry, you could maybe get another fifth round or sixth round tight end, or we'll see how this new kid that they got from the Bengals does on the practice squad, Rig. And so yeah, I think on the other side of football, look, there's a lot of players are going to be unrestricted. I wrote about this a couple of days ago about all the guys that are currently scheduled to be free agents, and a lot of them, there are a lot of them on the defensive side of football, but all that said, too, I think edge rusher needs to be reinvested in at some point during the 2023 draft. But that's a long answer to a short question there. The short answer I should be giving is from where I sit right now, I really would like to see them invest two of their first three draft picks in offensive line.
You, me, and the rest of Steelers Nation, I think, on that one. So good question there, Andrew. I'm with you, Dave. I think edge will need to get addressed again, and Andy Weidl's pretty much in lockstep with you about drafting edge guys every single year. So I think you will see one of those next April.
Ooh, you trying to get me to need a shower tonight or what?
I'm trying to. We'll see. By the way, Larry Ogunjobi changing numbers. So 65 this summer. He is now 99. So just a quick news note there. You'll see a 99 out there. That's going to be Larry Ogunjobi. Trent Scott, by the way, 72. He wore 64 this summer. AB says history says Watt takes a step back this year. Where do you think he finishes on sacks? I go with 14 for the year. I'll have my stat predictions later this week. While it's hard to think about can this guy have more sacks, he's increased his number of sacks every single year of his career, and he had 22 and a half, basically playing 14 games last year effectively with a time missed and in-game injuries and things like that. So I don't know where I come in. I'm gonna tease that till later in this week. Do you have any shot on where you think Watt sacks totals come in at?
Man, if he has regression, I will gladly take 18.
Yeah. What do you think the regress to? Only 18.
I'll gladly take 18 as a regression, especially maybe if Alex Highsmith picks up a couple more on the other side there, and just if disruptive. What's the word that T.J. Watt's been using quite a bit lately? Not disruptive, but I forget the word he's been using.
Yeah,
but
I can't remember.
Just be that guy that's constantly causing disruption over there on that side, and the sacks will come, obviously. So I wouldn't be so caught up maybe in the sack number as I am pressures and bat downs, and the sacks will come. So if there is a regression, then I don't know, 17, 18, I could live with that as long as, look, you got some poisons you have to choose on that, assuming that defensive line stays healthy, man. You got to decide which poison, and I would expect TJ to get obviously the most attention, but that Cam Hayward long arm hasn't gone away, and Tyson Alualu's back, Ogunjobi, obviously Highsmith. I mean, there are going to be a lot of situations. This is a definite grow up year for Alex Highsmith, because there are going to be a lot of situations, I think, where the Steelers defense get him schemed up one-on-one on that left tackle. They're going to ask him to win, several of those battles, obviously. So I'm fine with a regression as long as it's like, I don't know, 17, 18, right around in there.
He could regress and still lead the league in sacks comfortably. So good spot to be in for him. Try to go through these questions as quickly as we can, because there's a pretty long list to, again, send super chats. About 15 minutes left with Dave and I. Just Emilio, man, is cornerback still a big concern? I wouldn't call it a big concern. The question is, do you have that high-level number one corner to deal with Jamar Chase twice a year, starting with week one? Mike Hilton talking a big game today, saying that nobody can stop Jamar Chase. And obviously Pittsburgh could not stop him last year. So Witherspoon hopefully can be that guy. It's really him or nobody else. And finding that consistency is going to be key for Kella. So that's really the only question I have in that cornerback room right now.
I tell you, one thing that I was pleasantly surprised to see was the physicality of Keller Witherspoon just against the run and coming up and on some of those screens, and him not making business decisions out there. That was number one. Didn't really get to see as much of maybe of Levi Wallace as we wanted to, but I'll take the company line here when it comes. Rushing coverage goes hand in hand. So if you have the expected rush there, I would expect the back end, look, losing Casey might be the most underrated kind of preseason loss that this team has had. And hopefully he gets back sooner rather than later, because I think it really gives the ability, when they have three safeties on the field, to do a lot of different things there. And especially against teams with like tight ends and, Baltimore and those kind of things there. But, I'm going to say I think they will be okay until they give me a reason to not be okay. And if the rush is there, and they obviously need to get more stout against the run, because that obviously when you let opposing offenses get ahead of the chains, then you don't get into many of those 2nd and 8 situations, or those 3rd and 7 situations where you can just pin your ears back and more than anything, force that ball to come out, then tackle short of the chains and that kind of thing there. So I guess it's yet to be seen, but if the rush is there, I would expect the coverage to go hand in hand.
Yeah, well said there. Liking some of the comments here talking about T.J. Watt and this pass rush. Ross Swisher saying Highsmith should get 8 to 10. Hopefully Clark Hagan's 2.0. I love that Hagan's comparison there. Tim Chase, speaking my language, saying 60 sacks divided up. I'm hoping this will be the year. Can this be the year 60 sacks? I've been saying that almost every single year. They've gotten so close yet so far. And KHOR201 says if he stays healthy, talking about TJ Watt, says 25 sacks for TJ Watt.
Ooh.
$5 super chat here from Lou Boy. Thank you again. With all the batted balls in the Lions games, I see a lot of interceptions this year. I think Wallace will be the best DB. Fair commentary, certainly. I think Pittsburgh batted 6 or 7 passes this preseason from their defensive line, and that should create more opportunities. This secondary, this team overall, has to come away with a football more than they did last year.
What did I predict the other day? Miles Jack, what did I say, 3 interceptions?
Is that what you said?
2 or 3, yeah.
Okay, nice.
I think I put either that or I put it out. I either said it on the podcast or and because just kind of like what the commenter said right there. I mean, Alu, those guys are coached good at getting those hands. Even we're seeing Loudermilk do it now, and Leal.
Right, and Hayward's the king. He had 9 last year, I think.
Right. If you can't get to the quarterback, and that's why they look for this certain length of guy. That's why it's not a surprise that the Wren kid that they signed to the practice squad, he was on your what they look for study is, I think, only missed 1 or no boxes.
No
that
boxes.
year.
Every box checked.
When it came to that study there, and man, if they can keep these guys healthy, and didn't Adams even have a bat down or 2 last year?
I believe so.
And that's why I kind of think Miles Jack's going to have at least 3 interceptions, just because, just like the commenter said there, I think you're going to see a couple of those balls go up in the air and go right in the arms of the team in the black and gold. At least that's what I'm hoping for.
I'm hoping so too. John Horvat, Alex, I know you've talked extensively about the techniques Pat Myers is teaching the O-line, and I've seen on Twitter you mentioned you didn't completely agree with it. What issues do you have? That's hard for me to try to fill in with a quality answer with the time that we have. Just generally, whenever you're so aggressive, I think it doesn't work as well against finesse moves and guys that aren't trying to go through you but around you, and so there's some chances to lose ugly, and that's happened this year against spins and swipes and things like that. I think it's a better aggressive on-body set against bull rushes and long arms and power moves like that. So that's the general idea, where there's great reward to it, where you can win early and shut down a rush immediately and just win it, cleanly and beautifully. But if you lose kind of bad. Is kind of the thought process there.
I'm showing Montravius Adams with 1 pass defensed last year. I'm showing Bugs had 1. Loudermilk had 3. Wormley had 3. We talk about all these defensive linemen. We don't talk about Wormley, right?
Right.
He's going to see considerable amount of snaps. Wormley had 3 of them. And then Hayward had 9 passes defensed.
Yeah, so that's around 15 for this defensive line. You probably see a similar number, maybe even a better number this year.
Get a little bit less hand on it this time and make it go up.
There you go.
Instead of bat it down.
Cody says, do you think Claypool could move to the slot? Because I've heard people compare Chase to Darren Waller and how he moves. Claypool's in the slot right now. He's played there extensively during the time he was healthy, available during camp. So he'll get a lot of work inside.
I've called for this for since October, September of last year. I thought maybe once Juju went down, I've been a fan of potentially moving Claypool in the slot. I think he can get some tasty matchups in there. He played, I think it was 23% of his snaps at Notre Dame. I have to go back and look at some of my old notes and all. So it's not foreign to him. And look, one of the things that I said about Claypool coming out and all was, his inability to get on top of people outside as a Z. And it will be interesting, I think, to see. I think you can take more advantage of some of the stuff. You can still run some of those slot fades. You can occasionally mix him and George Pickens up, have George move inside and play occasionally in the slot. Let Claypool run some goes at the Z as well too. But I am very interested to see how maybe some of these matchups they can get with kind of the old big slot mentality there of Claypool inside. And I think it's the only thing that I do worry about that is I think a lot of Claypool's drops in college, I think in some of my charting came within 7 yards of the line of scrimmage, and most notably on some of those, smash, kind of coming across the middle type situations there. So that would be the biggest concern there. But you can still obviously with that big body run a lot of slants with him there. I love the slot fade.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of my favorite. No matter who's in there, I love watching the slot fade. And we got to see that, and I think it was the second preseason game there. So I would expect a lot of those as well too. So I think that is the right move with Claypool, at least until Calvin Austin gets up and running and all.
Our good friend Ashley Bright says Mason name number 2 makes him more relevant for a potential trade. Big Ben on this podcast walked us through his rookie year. Yeah, I just don't see Rudolph being the number 2 making him that much more relevant, or that being the reason, motivation for him being the number 2. It really just comes down to, if he is going to be the number 2, his experience coming off the bench and kind of that been there, done that mentality that Pickett does not quite yet have. Matthew Things ASMR says, who will be doing the punt and kick return duties? Does Calvin Austin get a shot when he's back up and healthy? It'll be Gunnar Olszewski to start on kicks and punts, with Steven Sims backing him up. So that'll be the starting kick and punt returner for the year. TSC4, do you think they force Mitch to the bench sometimes this year? It really just depends on his play and the quality of the team's play and where they're at. How this team starts the year with 2 of their first 3 games against the North will be, I think, pretty critical in shaping that. But I also believe Mike Tomlin will have a longer leash and be more patient about it than most people think. So I think if they do make a change, it will come later than sooner.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Question about any first or second round tackles for next year's draft. That's a better question probably for Jonathan Heidschiter. There's the Northwestern kid, Skronsky or whatever his name is, but I don't know too much about this class yet. I've been kind of leaning on Jonathan.
Yeah, look, and we stay so focused on the Steelers in season to be, and I watch college football every weekend. I know Alex tries to watch as much as he can. We still have Steelers stuff to cover over the weekend, and obviously watching tape and getting ready for the games. Alex and I really don't get hard and heavy into that stuff until the Senior Bowl. To be quite honest with you, we know people, we just haven't gone deep into their tape at all until it gets that. And that's why we've got guys like Jonathan Heidschiter on the site now. Jonathan, throughout the week, I think before key games and all, just like he did this last Saturday, kind of players to watch that he thinks the Steelers might be interested, kind of loosely grouped, if you will, and then kind of go from there. So that way, when we immediately do get into Senior Bowl time and all like that, as Alex and I get caught up, we'll be able to have Jonathan and some of these other guys on, and they can help bring us and others up to speed at the same time. So that's one of the beauties about our staff growing the way it is we've got people to be able to start watching that part of the process.
William says, which defensive linemen sit this week? My guess is Leal and Loudermilk. Mm-hmm. Let's see. K. Jackson, Pittsburgh. How confident are you in the Canada offensive scheme? It'll be run more in his vision. I think it'll be ups and downs, and how well this offensive line plays dictates a lot. But I think it'll be run, with less compromise and more in the way that Canada wants, for better or for worse.
Yeah, I think we're still going to be treated to being aggravated on second and long runs.
True.
Look, this team wants to run the football, and they're probably going to want to try to run it on early downs out of more heavy stuff, 2 tight end type personnel groupings, I would think. And as Alex has written and we've talked about, and he's done film rooms on, I think you're going to see more of the natural quarterback boots and try to get these quarterbacks in more levels type, easier kind of decision throws in that way. And look, the offensive line alone is probably going to dictate that your quarterback had to be on the move, a lot of it. But as Alex said, at the very least, we're going to get to see the root of what Matt Canada and what he wants his offense to be. Right. And your talent level and your offensive line, and what it's still all going to be predicated though on whether or not this team can successfully run the football.
Sure. No excuses this year though for Matt Canada as far as I'm concerned. William also saying, can Norwood be part of the 3 safety package with Casey out, or is it scrapped until Casey comes back? It could be Miles Killebrew. Killebrew was part of that package last year. Norwood, maybe the physicality has improved some, but maybe you want someone a bit more of the box kind of guy. Nor doesn't quite fill that. So I think it'll be either Killebrew or nobody. But it's an interesting question. It could be Nord. I don't have a great answer for you there, William.
Let's get Casey back.
Yeah, sooner than later. Let's see here. Someone's unhappy about the way Tomlin's handled the quarterback battle, calling it an open competition, which gave some hope for Kenny, our first round pick, to be the starter, and then Mitch gets the vast majority of the first team reps. So understand the point there, Mr. Hammers. Do you Yins think we make a trade before the deadline for more O-line help? Who knows? Probably not, but we're all guessing about what the world looks like 8 weeks from now.
Look, and I put this on Twitter this afternoon. I think the next line in the sand, if you will, I don't think they're going to do anything at this point before week 1, obviously. But November 1st is the trade deadline, and who knows if your own quarterback health holds up, and if quarterback if Kenny progresses and you're ready for him to at minimum be the number 2, and if quarterback health around the league plays into it, I wouldn't still rule out the possibility. And look, the record obviously depends a lot on that, whether or not you're going to make moves and either be buyers or sellers. I think we will see some sort of trade, yes,
Okay.
between week 1 and the trade deadline. Now, whether that's buying or selling, I don't know, but I will at least go on record and say I think you will see at least one trade after week 1 and before the trade deadline.
All right, fair enough. Ashley Bright saying, Dave and Alex, who are your top 3 most important practice squad players? Ashley's are Leglue, Renell Wren, and Mark Gilbert. I don't have a list of top 3. I think that veteran safety Andrew Adams kind of interesting with his experience and physicality, and could he potentially become a 3 safety package guy? That's a bit ways down the road, but veteran type guy there. Other than that, I think those are all good selections there. Leglue, Gilbert, but I don't have a top 3 for you, Ashley.
I tell you what, I was tickled pink to see him get Mark Gilbert back. Yeah. I got to be honest, and I don't know if anything will ever come out of that. I think at some point this season, for whatever reason, injuries or whatnot, I think you'll see Mark Gilbert at least get an elevation to the game day 55. He might be one of those guys that bounces back and forth a few times there. I'll tell you this: that Elijah Riley really showed something in that preseason finale. Once again, I'm not saying that these guys are going to be future whatever and all, but I'm talking about intriguing guys. I would say Mark Gilbert, for obvious reasons. Elijah Riley, just because, man, that guy loves to hit and tackle, and you can never have too many of those guys, I don't think. And then the other one that I'm really intrigued about is this Justin Rigg, that 6'6" tight end out of Kentucky, and a little bit of tape that I've watched. Maybe, and it's a huge maybe, he could be your number 2 tight end past 2022. So those are and then Renell Wren, we already knew a little bit about, thanks to the pre-draft process several years ago. So let me make that list 4 then. I would say Mark Gilbert, Elijah Riley, Justin Rigg, and Renell Wren are the guys that I'm most intrigued about that are starting the season on the practice squad.
Dave and I will stay a couple minutes longer to get through as many questions as we can.
Yeah, we got 200 in there. Give them another 12 minutes or so.
Yeah, appreciate you guys being here. So certainly want to stick around as long as we can to recognize and thank you guys for the excellent turnout tonight. Jarrell Harris, I read a YouTube comment, dangerous words to say there, Jarrell, saying if the offensive line doesn't improve soon, Najee might want out soon. I don't think there's anything to worry about there, and Najee's under contract for a couple more years, so don't think that's a concern there, Jarrell.
I just want him to stay healthy, man.
That's maybe the bigger concern about the offensive line.
Just stay healthy.
Let's see. What else do we have here? Why is Davis switched to tackle and not guard? That is from I Hop Too Much, asking about why Davis is listed as a tackle. That's a depth chart. They don't put multiple guys on backup spots. They're on the depth chart. So he can and will play both and probably be the top backup at guard.
And as I said right after they signed him and immediately went to the film and all, look, he only played guard at Minnesota during the preseason. He obviously has a long list of positions, and he played, left guard was the least amount of snaps he's played in the NFL at the four positions. I believe right tackle was, I think all of his right side was the most. I think it went right tackle,
Mhm.
right guard, and then it dropped way down into the 300 snap count at left guard, and then not too far behind. Oh no, left tackle, and then not too far behind left tackle was left guard. And to be quite honest with you, of all the tape that I watched on him, I think left guard might be his best spot. And this is the other revelation after watching some of his tape. And this might be more of a reflection on the rest of the offensive line. He might be the best pulling guard that this team has under contract right now.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to pull a lot, but that's something to hang your hat on, I guess. Jim Kelly says these guys have the best Steelers analysis that I found. Good job. Thank you, Jim. I'm going to assume that's Buffalo Bills legend, Jim Kelly, watching the stream here. Let's see, what else do we have here? Will Witherspoon and Wallace be able to keep up with Higgins, Boyd, and Chase? I feel that's a massive mismatch all year. Certainly, I think that's the Bengals have three great receivers in Higgins and Chase and Tyler Boyd in the slot, and a lot of teams are going to struggle with that. And I think Pittsburgh has better depth overall to deal with that, more successfully than other teams. But yeah, I mean Higgins and Chase can make some high level plays, so that will be certainly maybe the matchup to watch week one. And then also, I think he said about Trey Hendrickson versus Dan Moore. I've been talking about that for a couple of weeks about Hendrickson being a big problem come week one.
What do you think about that Bengals attempt to upgrade their offensive line?
I mean, I think there's 4 new starters this year. I think it's Jonah Williams, the only returner. They got a rookie in Cordell Volson at left guard. They signed Leal Collins.
Who looks good, by the way. And
Yeah.
I think Josh Carney, I think that was a Shrine Bowl kid that Josh Carney kind of highlighted early on in the process. So he does look like he might be the real deal for them at guard.
Yeah, so we'll find out again, how do you play as a collective five with so many new pieces? Pittsburgh dealt with that last year, those issues, especially early. That may be a problem for them against Pittsburgh's good, aggressive, chaotic-looking defense, but they needed new guys in there, and they've certainly made some aggressive upgrades.
I think Watt versus Leal Collins is a tasty matchup for week one for TJ.
For sure. Randy Wagner, what's the latest on Najee's Liz Frank, or is it classified? It's not classified. We're talking about it. He talked about it, so he should be good to go for week one. I assume he's fully healthy. He played in the finale, so it lingered, but he should be good now. Let's see, what else do we have here? Joey Jr., what's up with the jump man? Joe Hayden, anyone going to pick him up? I'm not sure. I think there's a price issue. He doesn't want to play slot corner, doesn't want to play safety. I think he's kind of waiting, so waiting for the right opportunity, I guess Joe Hayden is.
And those usually come about at some point. I won't be shocked if Joe Hayden by, I don't know, week 6 is on a roster somewhere because of somebody has an injury at an outside cornerback position.
This is a question for you in your wheelhouse, Dave. Ethan Bowl, any idea what Anthony Miller's contract looks like? Is he under contract next year? I was excited for him this year. What's the status on Miller?
Yeah, it was just a 1-year, I believe, veteran benefit contract with Anthony Miller this year. And that means he would be an unrestricted free agent after this season, assuming he spends the whole season on the reserve injured list, which he made it past the length of time for them to come to an injury settlement with him. So whatever he's got going on, that was shoulder with him, wasn't it?
With
Anthony Miller.
Yeah, right shoulder. Yep.
Okay, so I would imagine that maybe there was something there that it was pretty serious. So probably a good chance he stays on IR all season. He has split salary designation in his contract, so he's 480,000 cap charge on him right now, I do believe, with him. And I don't believe he had a signing bonus with his contract there. So he's going to be an unrestricted. And I think I put in my recap a couple of days ago, you got this far with him now, and this would be his second season, I think, with the Steelers. And it might be time to say goodbye there.
I think so. Jarrell Harris, did Adams make the roster, assuming you're talking about Montravius? Yes, he did. Ross Swisher, Loudermilk's still injured. Alex and Dave, again, injury report Wednesday will tell us more. I think Loudermilk said he was going to be ready for week one, or hoped to be ready week one, but I think just based on the numbers game, even if he is healthy, he will probably be a healthy scratch and active week one.
Yeah, that looks the way it's trending.
F War saying maybe we'll get to see Claypool versus Hilton this year, which is a maybe matchup working in
Hmm.
Pittsburgh favor, but it depends on the route concept. That's a good one to note there, so I like that F
Mm-hmm.
War. Let's see. KT Nisbet talking about why risk a rookie. Again, it just goes back to is he ready to play? I think Pickett is, but I don't want to belabor the point there. With the additions to the receiver room, do you expect the numbers for Deontay and Claypool to regress? That's from Todd. Maybe a little if this team wants to be able to run the ball more. Hopefully, don't have to pass it 600 plus times and play all the catch up ball they did. Hopefully, they'll be much better in the first half, the first quarter than they were last year. So there may be some regression there. I think that's reasonable to expect.
Yeah, I wouldn't count on this team scoring 24 or 25 points every week. The defense is going to have to obviously do more. There's going to have to be some short fields delivered in there. The special teams. There are several games on this team's schedule this year that screams needing things like what happened against Buffalo in Week 1 last year to happen. Key fourth down stops, keeping the score down, because I think it's a lot to ask this offense to continually put up 24, 25, 26 points a game.
Right. And that Bengals game probably being one of those games you're
Yeah,
referring to.
yeah. I mean, you got to come out there and make Joe Burrow be the one that puts the football up in the air 35, 37 times and make him beat you that way.
007, Alex, do you get the feeling the Steelers don't spend money and draft picks on the O-line? DeCastro seems to be the last high-end offensive lineman. Not really. I understand how that looks, but they had such rare continuity along the offensive line, they didn't have to reinvest for such a long time, and they spent money to retain guys, to retain a DeCastro, to retain a Villanueva, retain a Marquise Pouncey. So it was just rare continuity where they got all those guys, and they kept most of those guys, and so they found some gems along the way in Villanueva and Matt Filer, Beecham, etc. So I don't think they're philosophically opposed. And again, that was all under Kevin Colbert anyway. And so it's a new regime, especially with Andy Weidel coming in from the outside.
And look, they did at least try to address the position in the draft with Dan Moore and Kendrick Green, but obviously that it's not looking good right now. I get a kick out of everybody says, "Well, the Steelers, the cap money that they're spending on their offensive line, this, that, and the other." Well, look, you got rookies under contract for one thing, and obviously you're going to have low cap hits on first years of guys like Mason Cole and James Daniels. At least they went that route. If you want to get mad at anything right now as a Steelers fan, it's that they did not draft wisely. At least we'll see, obviously, what happens with Dan Moore Jr. in 2022. But their selections obviously weren't great from where we sit here right now. And maybe they could have done a better job of higher quality free agent additions this past offseason.
Yeah, and so we'll just see how it looks this year. Let's see. I think we have time for two more. Some questions and comments from Rick, and I think somebody else. I think it was Rick again. Kind of half joking about who the team may replace Devin Bush with. I haven't watched this game much, but I'm going to call my shot on a future Steeler. He won't have to change his uniform either, Dave. Jack Campbell at Iowa has gotten a lot of buzz as maybe an early day two kind of guy. So that kind of screams Steeler to me. Watch out for Jack Campbell out there at Iowa.
All right, I don't know enough about the class yet to even take shots in the dark like that.
All right, let's see. Randy Wagner, last one here. Should we believe in the offensive line coach? What do Yins like about his instruction? I mean, Randy, we don't have a choice to believe in him or not. He's here, and we'll see how it goes and take it from there. What I like about Meyer is that he is a teacher. I think he's a guy that really wants, not a super like loud and fiery and yell kind of guy, but really more quiet and calm and wants to explain things technically as much as possible. So there's pros and cons to every single style, but I think he really does have that heart of a teacher, and it's going to work well for this younger group of guys.
And once again, it's hard to make chicken salad out of chicken. True. You know what?
But Pat Meyer will try. Let me scroll through here. Looks like not a lot of other questions here, and it's 8:15. So we're going to wrap things up here. Again, appreciate you guys being here. The turnout was excellent. Dave and I will return in 2 weeks from now, so we'll have a good grasp on how the Steelers season has started, and we'll certainly come back and talk about all that's happened over the last 2 weeks. So appreciate you guys being here. Again, please subscribe to the channel so you'll catch the next live stream and more videos here on the channel over the next couple days. And Dave, as always, thank you for being here with us.
Well, Alex, thank you for putting these on. You do a great job moving them along. And thank you, everybody who showed up tonight. It means a lot. We got a lot of great content coming on the site the rest of this week on SteelersDepot.com. So peace and love, everybody.
Absolutely. You can check out an archive version of this on Steelers Depot a little bit later today. Again, appreciate you guys watching, and we'll talk to you soon.